Hey everybody, welcome to a review, the first proper match review of season 2022. It's a practice match review, Carlton and St Kilda. I just got home and the overall feeling of that is one of positivity and relief. Pretty excited, to be honest. I saw a lot today that I was satisfied with. I went there today looking for a couple of things. I went there today looking for how our defensive setup would be and what it would look like, and knowing that we are going to be changing some things around, knowing McGovern's going to be in there, seeing how Oscar McDonald's going, because I've had my eye on him from early in the preseason piece. So looking at that, and then also how we switch from offensive mentality to defensive mentality. That was a big thing for me today. And then also some of the young players, some of the individuals, some of the guys who we've been talking about in the preseason who we feel like, either need to step up or take that next step in their careers. And like I said, left Icon Park pretty happy. Early in the piece, I guess the teams came out last night. Some interesting ones there. Paddy Dow was named in the reserves. Ed Curnow as well. Ed Curnow, I did see him after the ones game just now. He had some strapping on his knee, and he has been doing some lap work for the most part of those open sessions, so that might have something to do with it. Jack Martin's still not available, which was an interesting one. Lockie Fogarty was named in the twos as well. And I guess the other interesting, selections were, Murkov in the ones, Boyd in the ones, and I guess it potentially gives us a bit of an insight as to where people are in the pecking order. So going in, those were the initial thoughts. Pretty excited to be there, obviously. The crowd really started getting there. I don't know if the club were really prepared for how many people were coming, because there seemed to be only a couple of workers scanning everybody's ticket, but there were, hundreds of people. So that was good. And there was a particular moment, I think, where I realized, oh, wow, like, we're back. We're back in the thick of it. And it was in the first quarter, really early in the piece. Jack Silvani pins one of the Saints players and gets them holding the ball, kicks the goal. The crowd roars, and I was standing next to Kira at the time, and we looked to each other and said, oh, we're back. This is it. So that was great. And I think the other thing as well coming into today was just moving on from 2021. Now, for me personally, that was dreadful, the back end of 2021. Pretty much that second half of the season, starting to watch games knowing you had this anxiety of what would happen in a negative way in the review and all of that. So I know we've had a full off season, but to actually see the new team play some competitive footy against another opposition from another club really started, setting the wheels in motion for, the next era. So that was great. Now, I'll run through some of the moments that really stood out to me in each quarter. It wasn't, a fantastic display of football for the most part. The first quarter was brilliant. The second quarter was just as brilliant as the first quarter was. It was as bad in the second quarter from our point of view, I thought. Now, whether that was a change in structure, whatever the case may be, it just really seemed like a tale of two quarters. And then the third quarter was a little bit better, and the fourth quarter was slightly better as well. So overall, it was a tick, and it was just, get through unscathed and no injuries, which we will touch on shortly. So first quarter, I noticed a few things. Setterfield starting on the wing with O'Brien on the other wing, Zach Williams playing off the half-back line, but really, and he did this all day. He was really impressive. He ran hard all day, and we were looking to get him the ball. We were looking to get Saad the ball, and seemingly what we brought them into the club for, being the players that they were, they actually looked like the players that they were before they came to Carlton. So I thought that was something that really stood out. Brody Kemp played forward for the majority of the day. We had Fisher, Durden, and Owies as well in that forward line, which I really liked the look of. Now, the first quarter, for me, it was Lockie O'Brien. It was the story of Lockie O'Brien. I've had written down Lockie O, hello, Lockie O, wow. He just seemed to be everywhere. He seemed to keep his width, and we seemed to be looking for him, which I liked to see. I liked to see the trust in him to do his job, and he just had an outstanding quarter. I really enjoyed what I saw there. There was a nice passage of play where our small forwards got amongst it. Always kicked a nice crumbing goal in that first. The other thing as well was the defensive intent. It was absolutely there. We really blitzed them in that first quarter, and it was all smiles and it was all positive. And obviously, I'm not getting too carried away. It is a practice match and we are trying things out. And so I don't want to get over the top. But at the end of the day, when you see the open training sessions and you see them apply the same things that you've seen in open training to the practice match, it's good to see. Now, the second quarter was just not good. And it was not good because we seemed to start making mistakes. Jordan Boyd, kick across the face of goal, turnover, which resulted in a goal. I wonder, I was really interested to see, first of all, how we would go when we'd be challenged, and then how the players would respond when they did make mistakes, because the reality is it's going to happen. They will make mistakes, but the challenge is to keep your heads, and that's something we weren't able to do last year, and we haven't been able to do for a while. The Saints started getting on top. I think Lockyer fumbled a mark and gave away a free kick in the defensive 50. Mitch McGovern seemed to be caught out of position a few times. There was a beautiful kick, and I know it's one kick, but Zach Williams at the 20-minute mark of the second quarter kicked this absolute peach over the top of every player on the field, and he pinpointed Owies, who went over to Charlie, who took a bounce. I don't think we scored a goal from it, but it was just the Zach Williams kick. It was really exciting to see. Boyd turns it over again, and then he gives up another free kick for holding the man. Lockie O'Brien fumbles and runs into his man and gives a Saints goal. It just didn't work. Whatever was going on in the second quarter wasn't working. But to be honest with you, it's okay. Like, I'm not singling out these players to get on their back. It's just more, these are the things that happened, and they just happened to be involved in those passages of play. So the third quarter comes, and it seems like we start getting on top. I think maybe the Saints had the run of the play early in the third, and then we seemed to just start getting into the flow. And it started with a beautiful kick from Corey Durden, I should say, who lowered his eyes. He hit up Kemp, who hit up Chera, and that looked good. Jack Silvani was probably one of the other stories of the day, taking great marks in that third quarter. I thought it was our best forward on the day. Cripps, don't get me started on Patrick Cripps. He was great. He had this beautiful passage of play where he set up Adam Chera for a nice goal on the run on his left foot, just classy. I love Tom Williamson's game, especially in the third. He had that great chase down. We had a funny moment where we were sitting and Setterfield was running into open space into our forward 50 and he tripped over his own feet. Just unlucky. And it actually seemed to happen quite a bit. I know that it rained early this morning, and it just seemed like as the game went on, some of our players were falling down a bit more than others. And obviously you don't want to see it, but you definitely want everyone to be keeping their feet. I loved Fisher's game, especially in that third. He had a nice little passage of play where he set up Sard, who set up Kemp. And the fourth quarter was a bit of an arm wrestle, but we seemed to control the game. We seemed to control the tempo. It seemed to be on our terms for the most part. And like I said before, I love that we were challenged, and that was the important part. The Saints they're okay. They think they're going to play finals. They think they're one of the teams that should be in that spot, and we do as well, obviously. So to play against them and for them to challenge us back and actually get on top of the game and hit the lead and force us to change things up was, I think, a good thing for us, because I don't want it to be easy, and I love the fact that we're playing Melbourne next week. So we end up winning the game. Gosh, the standout players I feel like I should be careful of being too excited, but I thought there were quite a few of them that really impressed me today. Obviously, without Walsh, you're looking at, okay, who's going to take that next step? And if I had to pick a midfielder or someone who was in the thick of it that looked like he was getting more midfield minutes and made the most of them, I thought it might have been Zach Fisher. I thought he looked really dynamic. And the thing that we've been speaking about with him, I mentioned this in my preview of him, is when he's up the ground, when he's in space, when he's in the handball chains, he fits right in. He's just as good as anyone in there to get the ball where it needs to go. So I loved his game. I think if you look at the defense, it's Oscar McDonald. I've literally said it from the first time I watched them in their open training session. He actually started in defense, and he wasn't playing on Max King. And I think it was the second half, they switched Wiedering and Oscar McDonald, and McDonald played on Max King and did a terrific job. I think the beauty of him is he just plays his role. He's a lockdown defender. He's not trying to do more than what he's capable of. It's very clear that he's been instructed to do something, and it's very clear that he's just doing it. He doesn't seem to branch out from the parameters that he's been given. So I think he is a real lock for round one. That's my opinion. I think he's going to lock himself in there. McGovern looked okay back there in defence. I think he got better as the game went on. I think it's going to take some time, to be honest with you. It's a new position for him. Once it starts ramping up, it's going to be a challenge. Looking forward to seeing how he goes against the Demons, because they're a much better team in terms of the way they move the ball. And I just think they're primed for another premiership tilt. So I liked him. I liked our small forwards. I loved what Owies and Durden provided today. Durden seemed to play a little bit more up the ground at times as well. I wasn't sure if they were trying that out, but there was one particular passage of play where he and Jack Silvani kicked the ball to each other, ran ahead, sprinted ahead, and received the ball again, twice each. It was a beautiful passage of play. I think the one thing Durden, by his own admission, has said that he wants to get involved more in the game. He's got the pressure. That's all down pat. He's got that down pat to a T. He attacks ferociously with his defensive pressure, but just getting involved in the game a little bit more. And I thought he did that. I don't know what his stats were, but I think he definitely had over 10 or 11 touches, which for a small forward, that's pretty good for us. Always by the same token, pressure was there, kicked a couple of goals. I really liked the two of them in the side, and it got me thinking, is that something we can do for round one? Because I think that it makes us really dynamic, especially once Harry's back in the side. There's a lot of ball that's going to be coming to ground if they're not marking it. And so I love the dynamic of that. Jack Silvani was the other one. Absolutely outstanding today. I thought every time he went near the ball, something good happened. The best player on the ground for me was Patrick Cripps. Just looked strong, intense. And the beauty of Patrick Cripps today was his first instinct was to handball and get somebody else involved and release the ball to someone who was in a more advantageous position than what he was. So I loved his game. Chera and Hewitt are going to cover the hole that Sam Walsh has left for the short term perfectly. I love both of them. Two-way runners. I think it's probably unfair to say that, because I think the rest of them, the whole group seemed to work hard defensively, and that was definitely something that stood out to me. You go to the game and you're just wanting something to look different from last year, and it definitely had that about it. So that was some of the players that I really enjoyed. I think even Willow, I liked what I saw from him as well. I thought there were a few moments, especially with his intent. He's definitely someone that's not afraid to take the game on, and sometimes he can seemingly get himself into trouble. But today he looked solid. I really did enjoy him. And who else? I think Brody Kemp was the other one as well. If I had to name my 5 or 6 outstanding names, there were quite a few that I was happy with. Lockio looked really good early. Seemed to struggle a little bit in that second, but seemed to provide the overall package of what we want from him. So that's what I thought. But for those of you who were there, I really want to get your side of the story, because I was watching from one side of the ground. I was looking out for certain things, but I'm really keen to see what you think. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of the game, things that stood out to you, some notions and some themes that you think are going to start coming up in terms of the narrative of the Carlton Football Club going into round one, and maybe some of the players who will really stake their claim for round one. We'll chat about it in the comments. We'll check out the fan camps tonight. We'll be going live from 7 p.m. We'll get more of your thoughts there, and we'll go from there. Have a good one, and go the Mighty Blues.